Hello, hello, and welcome to Tea with Halo, the podcast of the Enchanted Academy. I am Halo Quinn, and I'm a pagan author, a storyteller, and a teacher of witchcraft and magic. And as such, I like to chat with other people who also practice and teach through their books, through their classes, through various different means and methods, because I'm curious about how other people explain the inexplainable, explore the inexplorable, those subtle worlds and those places where the divine, the other intersect with the world that we know as an everyday place, and how we can work together to re-enchant the world. And today we are having tea with Ness. Ness, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners.
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Ness Bosch. I'm one of the fundamental members of the Goddess community in Scotland. I'm the head of the Covenant of the Waters and the founder of the Path of the Bones as well, and the Clan de la Huesera. I'm an Iberian author, priestess, and shamaness, and I have been in this magical path, I could say, most of my life. So here I am.
Well, it's lovely to have you. And there's so many things in there that I'm like, you must tell us more about what that is. Like, what is the path of the bones?
So the path of the bones is the animistic path that I follow. Um, and it's also the is the name of the teachings that I share with other people about this path, no? Um, it's kind of a universal animistic path where we work with who we are. We work with who we are, with the ancestors. We work with the land that we have around us, and we explore through different animistic and shamanic practices. We explore different layers of the self. We look for healing. We look for knowledge, basically to open our consciousness through working through our bones and blood, no?
Oh, I
This
love
is what
that.
we are. So it's quite a deep path,
Mm.
but although it is deep, it doesn't mean that it's only for the few. It's literally for anyone that wishes to really connect to the self and the core of who they are, and their mission, or whatever you like to call it, in this world, and find themselves. Yeah.
So that's that. Like, I do a lot of work with embodiment. And one of the ways in which I always feel that is in my bones. It's coming back to my bones, that core of me. So I love what you're saying about that. And how easy do you find it is to get like to explain to other people? Like, how easy do you find people find it to actually come back to their bones and to their blood?
Well, the whole point about the path of the bones, about me putting this out to the world, because um sometimes, a lot of people struggles to find themselves in this world, to find a group to find a place where they belong. And it happens because somehow we have lost connection, or we are not really aware who we are. And I firmly believe that by connecting to that core to connecting to our bones, finding that identity based on ancestral work, past life work, work in this plane and reality, um, we can connect through all these layers to that core. And obviously, when you do that, it, I could write a super long list of the benefits of of you getting to know who you are and working with your bare bones.
What's the connection for you between the bones and the land?
Well, if we study, for example, if we found a bone somewhere, anywhere, no, we unearth that bone, we study that bone, and that bone might tell us many stories, no? It could tell us, okay, so this particular individual actually was born not far from here, maybe, because, you know, we can we can we can find in the DNA where do you come from? We can find that.
Hmm.
So that bone could actually start telling us the story of that person by saying, so this person is local, or this person is not local. This person comes from so far away. Um, that bone, can tell us a lot also about the geography of the place when it was found, the different substrates of the ground, the minerals, it's so many stories. And obviously we find also bones in the land because we bury them on purpose, right?
Hmm.
So we when we when we carry a ritual to bury someone, is telling us that that land connects to the person that's been buried in some manner. So I think there are many stories that we can unearth um, in connection to bones and the land. Something I do when I'm working outside and I'm working in the land, and any ritual, because I always start every single ritual the same way by, you know, honoring the spirits of the land and calling, the directions around me. And when I turn to the ground and I literally just put my hand in the ground to honor Mother Earth, but also I call the bones and the spirits of those lying beneath my feet, you know? Um, so yeah, for me that's a connection.
There's so much interesting in what you're saying about it. Makes me think about the way in which the land shapes us while we live, and where we, because many of us nowadays, we can travel so easily, we move around the world, we live in places. I live in Wales and I grew up in southwest England, but I've also been, across the pond. I've been a
Yeah,
bit
I'm in
further.
Scotland and I come from Iberian.
Yeah, and that, like, the very things that we eat from the earth and the weather and the temperature, the climate, all of that, that is rooted in the land. Excuse the pun.
And literally, you can read in your bones your diet. You can see if you had a deficiency of something because of your diet. So you can you can read so many stories in the bones.
Which means that the way that we live and interact with the land and our lives means that we're weaving stories into the bones that will then return to the land, whether that's
Yes.
through the earth or through the fire,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
transformation. Yeah, we
Yeah.
return to that earth.
Yeah. But in a way, we are still our ancestors.
Mm,
We are, they live through us until this very moment, because it doesn't matter if the rituals have changed. We still go to the land.
of course, of course, because it's our home, right? And we're
Yeah.
human like they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the bones in the land that aren't human? So prior, because when you call on the bones in the land, all of the
Mm.
beings that live there
But I call
before.
I call all bones. I know I
Mm,
don't only call the human bones. Like when I go to the land and I put my hand in the land, I do call the bones of those humans that are there, but I also call the bones of every creature that is there. And I also call those invisible beings that are, you know, under my feet as well. So I don't only call the bones in that sense, the human bones. I just call everything.
Yeah. I always think of that, like we talk about the ancestors as being like the people in our blood lineage, but actually that the bones in the land, all of
Yeah,
them are our ancestors.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I am to hold a ritual, okay, I am in this land. You know, it's a casuality that I actually have Scottish DNA, but I didn't know that when I moved here. But I live here. I woke up in this land, and obviously, as a person that is conscious of the power of the work with ancestors of the land,
Mm.
you know, I need to honor them. And obviously, I want to include their energy and their support because they're part of that land that are holding me and I'm holding a space. So I just call every single force that I can call into my work.
I feel like that's really important as well, both in the sense of if they're there, then we should be honoring them because we're in their home as much as they're in
Yes.
ours. We share this
Yeah.
home together. So how does it feel when you call on those bones and they respond? What does that feel like?
For for me, you know, it depends on where I am. You know, you feel different things in different places. That's from my experience. You know, obviously before I call them, I have started my work doing offerings, right? And I before even before people comes, I'm doing my offerings. And I'm doing my offerings and I'm connecting to the land and I'm making sure I'm welcome because if I feel I'm not welcome, even when people come, I say we need to go. We cannot really do this here.
Mm.
Um, and as I said, you know, once I'm welcome and I'm making the the call, it depends really of the energy of the place, I have to say. Sometimes it feels kinds of electric through my feet, you know, and you know this bzzz, some energy. Sometimes I feel like a pillow, like suddenly I'm walking on a pillow. Uh and sometimes, you know, I can, you know, I remember once because I'm a visionaire, right? I see things and I'm a woman of visions, like my grandma and my mom and other people in my family. And sometimes I have put my hand down and called the ancestors. And maybe I have seen like a hand carrying a sword or you know just like an image of what was actually maybe underneath in that land. So it really depends on where you are, I have
Mm.
to say.
Do you find I have you had a look at some of the stories about the because obviously my like one of my things is stories and at the stories of the different landscapes, so like in the Arthurian legends we've got the sleeping king under the land. In fact that comes up in many places, but in other places it's slightly different. So have have you looked at any of those? Do any of those have like parallels with what you've experienced when you call on the bones in different places?
I I have to admit that I actually don't research.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I just go to the place and I immerse myself in the place without any previous knowledge, maybe about the place. I just, you know, I go open-hearted with my offerings. This is me, and I don't tend to research. even if I manage to see something and if I'm given a vision or something, I have to say maybe I just go home and I just disconnect from the event and then maybe I just forget, you know. Only if the vision is very intense, maybe I will go and try to find out something. But normally when I come home and with the children, then my head is somewhere else and being neurodivergent, my brain just switches off, I think.
Yeah, it's why I find it's important to make notes, and if I forget to make notes, then that's it. But I think of that as it's like you were talking about. This is a very animistic path to walk, and for me, in those places, like I love the stories, and I'll tell the stories, I'll share them. But if I go to a place and I don't know it, then it is that very much that being present with the beings that are there. And in those
Yeah.
instances, like it's the conversation. You don't make notes on every conversation you have, do you? You
No,
just
no.
experience it. You're there with them.
Yeah. But that's why I think I don't tend to research or do anything like that because I'm just going there, as I said, with an open heart and to connect with the land without the filters of knowledge sometimes. Because sometimes when we research and we try and we get the filters of the people that were doing that work. And to me, it's just like, no, I'm just here. This is me. I come with honor in my heart, and I want to do this. And if you're okay with it, I want to do this ritual. And if you're not okay with it, just let me know.
So for you,
I remember, oh, sorry.
no, go.
I remember I was in Kintyre, in one area in Argyll and Bute in Scotland. We went to the forest and I was doing a hand fasting ceremony. And I went deeper into the forest to do my offerings. And I started putting my offerings down and I felt this huge presence not too far from me, like huge. And I was, at the moment, I knew it was a troll. And the troll kind of, we had this dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Like in between our minds. And he kind of said, I don't like you here. And and I said, do you mind if I do this quickly by the edge of the forest in the road and we go? Because we have come a long way. And it was a very long way. I mean, the couple came all the way from Belgium to do this. And I explained, we have come a long way. I brought some offerings. I promise we will do this quickly. I will clear the space. You wouldn't see me again. And I waited. And he just went like, okay, do it and go. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. I put my offering down. I did the ceremony. It was perfect. It was short, and we left. That's it. So it is important to listen. And sometimes in that occasion, he was okay with me carrying on, but I had to be sure just go. Sometimes you get a huge no, and that's like no, like go, go. But I have to say, those times are the very few. When you
Mm.
come really with an open hearted and you have your offerings and you're honoring all the spirits of the land around and you bring things for the different spirits and you are in tune and really, you know, there for a connection and with respect, it tends to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually some of the spirits sometimes are actually happy that someone is there, acknowledge them and say, oh, someone can actually, is connecting with us. And so some of the spirits are actually happy. And And I have to say, some of the fady people are super happy sometimes.
Yeah,
Some of them are super happy, especially if you leave them things they love. They just go absolutely nuts.
yeah. There's that thing, isn't it? Like we've been in relationship as a species, as living beings with the spirit world for all of our history because we're a part of it. And it's
Yeah,
only like these very recent years, really, in the span of history that we've been separated off. Um, and
yeah,
it takes a lot of effort to keep separate. So
yeah,
it stands to reason that at least some of them uh, would be like, oh, you've remembered that you belong in the web of everything with all of us.
yeah, yeah. And and it's funny because I have another, I know you're into stories, so I have another story about another troll. And it was funny because you know how that troll was like super like, no, this is my place. Don't, I don't want you here. One of the times I went to the island of Arran, in the southwest. They're amazing. I mean, the island is like Scotland in petite. You have
Yeah.
everything. You have stone circles. You have this like amazing. And I remember we went to this beach to, for connection to the sea and look for treasures, and suddenly I feel this huge someone running down the hill, like whoo, running until it got next to me, and it was like, you can actually hear me. You can feel me. I was like, yes. And he was like desperate to talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, how different. It still is a troll, but this troll actually he was telling me a bit about his story. He just been so lonely for the last few years that he was actually delighted that someone could actually feel him and hear him. And he just ran towards me. Oh, so yeah, two different trolls, two very different experiences.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing those. Like, it's really important for us to be able to hear, particularly when we've had these experiences, because many of us have these experiences where we encounter trolls or oak tree spirits or,
Yeah,
whatever. And, or whoever, sorry, I should say. And we think, oh, maybe I'm just making out, maybe I'm just mad. And then we hear other people have these experiences as well and these encounters, and we
yeah,
go, oh, okay, it might just be something that's occasional for me. It might just be something that is an unusual occurrence, but it does happen and it happens to other people. And maybe I'm
yeah,
not mad. Maybe the world
yeah,
really is alive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So
And it's funny because people wouldn't expect to find trolls in Scotland. But
no.
obviously, with all the relationship with the Norse people, Scotland is practically a Norse country, I have to say.
Well, I mean, Britain, our old word for the fair folk was elf or alv, which is from that Norse and Scandinavia root. So, like,
Yes.
we're so close, we're close neighbors,
Yeah.
and the landscape
Yeah.
is so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And obviously when people travel, they travel with their stories and they connect with the land with their own stories because that's the only way they have to connect to the land.
yeah.
So,
So we give the names
obviously,
that are similar to the beings because
yes.
where the landscape is similar, if you've got landscape
Yes.
that is suitable for troll type spirits, you're going to have troll type spirits. And if the word you
Yeah.
have is troll, then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I recognize you. You're a troll. I know
Yeah.
you from back home.
Yeah.
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 So if you like, I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit here, right?
Oh,
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. So you say that when you go to these places, you're not doing research beforehand. You're not doing research about it,
no.
but you write books, right? So you've got
Yes.
you've got your book Path of the Bones, and
Yes.
I'm yet to read it. It is I've been very excited about it since it's come out, and you've sent me a copy to read, and I'm very grateful for that because I'm very excited to read it. So if, and you're going to be able to answer this easily, right? If it's a case of you prefer to go to a space and just open and have the experience and have that encounter, why do you write books? What do you think the value is in a book about these things?
Well, I think you can answer that better than me. You are a storyteller, a storyteller. My dad was a storyteller, and I struggle. Sometimes I do struggle to share with people, being neurodivergent. Um, I struggle to go to sometimes to conferences or things like places like that. I also struggle to go to conferences. I got small children, so it's even more hard.
Yeah.
But I remember um a couple of years ago when I was in the Glastonbury Goddess Conference, and I literally forgot my papers, like my notes. I forgot my
Mm-hmm.
notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in front of this huge audience, and I just went, just tell them the story you know. And that's what I did. And obviously, always been a storyteller. I followed my dad in that path. He used to tell us stories in the car. Then I took his place at times and told stories in the car for my brothers and my mom and himself. And so I continued telling stories. I started writing at a very early age. So I started making my own stories as well, as a little girl. And it is easier for me to sit down and write a story than it is to actually go in front of an audience and tell a story. So, and I believe that if you ever experience something, if you have knowledge that could help someone, you need to put it out there.
Yeah.
Because my whole point about writing Sacred Bones, Magic Bones was to kind of honor those bones and kind of rem to remind people bones are not scary. They're actually part of who you are. And there's so many stories that you need to remember. Let me remind you a few. That was my whole intention.
Yeah.
And in the book, I not only include research, but I include personal practice, and I also include stories. So, so yeah, if you have something to share, you need to find the way to share it. And for me, it's writing
Yeah.
and singing, I have to say. Singing is another way I use to share. But I have been singing very little in the last few years. I used to sing a lot.
Mm.
And I created songs for my ritual work in the Path of the Bones. And I always sang. I was singing all the time, and that was my way of sharing my medicine as well. If I got these boys that can actually create an emotion, and I can put together words to create, to move different emotion, I need to use it. And it makes me sad that I have stopped singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that resonates so much for me because, like, throughout my life, I've moved into singing and songwriting, and it's one of those things that kind of, when you start singing a song that and singing one of your songs or a song that you hear from the spirits and from the
Yeah.
bones and from like that, the music that moves through you, something shifts, something opens up, those vibrations, those magics, that medicine, is so powerful. And it feels, for
Yes.
me, it feels so vulnerable to sing in front of
Yes.
other humans. And so I kind of start to close
Yeah.
up around it to protect myself. But I know that when I let it flow,
Yeah.
it's healing for me, it's healing for them.
It's medicine.
Yeah. And
It's
that's
medicine. And I have to say, the only times I have used my voice lately is when I'm teaching people to some of the shamanic work from the Path of the Bones. I teach people to actually do extraction work with their voice.
oh,
And
to extract
it's amazing.
like what
Yeah, you can, it's something I teach people. It takes practice like everything, but I can literally go to your heart or to
mm,
the top of your head, and you can feel your chakras blocking like that, one after the other. Or
mm,
you can just feel the energy just going from your heart like down to your feet and up like that. I can do that with my voice, and I teach people to do that. Um, but that's not singing, that's energy work.
yes, energy work with your voice. But
Yeah, I
then
mean, it's still using your voice,
mm,
and your vocal cords to vibrate, to create that vibration, so you can actually go into the soul and unlock those
mm.
energies. But it's not singing, and I miss singing.
Why do you think you've not been able to recently? Is it young children focus on writing, things like that, or
Um, I think somehow, in I guess I stopped singing when I moved to Scotland.
interesting.
Yes, I think you know, maybe in Spain, the sunlight, the
Mm.
light is different. It raises your vibration. You within here, it's like you only feel like listening to the Carpenters. You know?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
So I think it has to do a lot with the mood of the climate around me.
Mm.
And it's true that sometimes I go to places and I hear that song, and it's quite melancholic,
Yeah.
it's but I think it has to do a lot with the land and the light, and so I am connecting to the music of the land in that sense, because I can hear that humming and that wind, and this melancholic vibration or songs coming. But I stop singing. I think it has a lot to do with that, actually. We've
Yeah.
been in a different country, in a different land, but also it's a different light, it's a different vibration.
Yeah. There are some physical things as well, because of course
Yeah.
I've been to Spain. I taught in Spain for a few years for a reclaiming witch camp, and I loved it so much. I loved so much about it. I was only there for short periods of time each year, but it was just this beautiful. Everyone was so passionately friendly, and I felt really, really at home. It was really, really lovely. And by the end of like the weekend there, I was almost managing to keep up with the conversation in the Spanish, because I was just immersed in it. It was lovely. But the humidity in the air is different. The
Yeah.
sense, as you say, the light is different, and that has an effect physically. So when I'm there, and when I spent a week teaching intensely in Italy, it was in July last year, and it was so hot, I almost got heat stroke. But all of my joints, all of my body, the back injuries that I normally play up for me, even if I overdo it. Um, None of it was a problem. My body was
Yeah.
supported by the warmth and the
Yeah.
dry. Whereas
Yes.
here in Wales, as in Scotland, we've got that with kind of having to care for our bodies slightly differently because of the
Yeah.
land and the climate.
Yeah.
But it also, what you were saying reminds me of we've got that sea foam song, the songs of the sirens and the selkies. And that again is different
Yeah.
to the song of the what I connected with in Spain because I was near Madrid, which is very, very
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah.
So
Because
yeah.
yeah, I think it is a different vibration. Here everything is more folkish,
Mm,
more it's a lament, everything
yeah.
is more like a lament. While I grew up in Granada. Come on. We have the gypsy cates and the sacromonte, the guitar, and everything is it's very much alive. It's like explosion, you
Yeah.
know. So very different.
Yeah. So how do you find uh, because you've come from that very fiery space, and so that's clearly in your
Water
sorry, in your
is water.
and
Is more
then
water here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you find them when you place yourself on the land and you're meeting the spirits here? Is that is that a benefit? Does it cause like confusion? Are they curious about you? Or is it just, oh, we're just here, it's fine?
I haven't really, I don't think they really bother about me being a foreigner. And as I said, I think also because there is this link in my bones to the land, in my DNA, maybe that has helped a little bit. But mostly they're just happy to be heard, I think. They're just whoever you are, if you come with honor and love, you know, you're
Yeah.
welcome. And we want more.
That's certainly been my experience, I have to
Yeah.
admit. Everywhere that I go, the the only place that I actually went to, which it took me a while to feel into the song of the land and to connect into the spirits there, was when I went to Scotland. Which sounds strange because I was born and grew up on this piece of land on this island, but Southwest Wales to Scotland, Southwest England up to Scotland, actually the landscape's very different. And
Yeah.
the point at which I managed to find a route in Edinburgh in particular was by, for me, it was tuning into the Selkie stories and feeling into that energy there. And then once I found that thread of energy, the whole landscape and the city opened up because I was in
Okay.
Edinburgh at this point, and then I went out and went up to Dundee, so there was that sort of bit of
Yeah.
landscape there, and
Yeah.
finding those threads of like, how do I connect in? What song am I listening for?
Yeah. I
Um,
think I came here guided
yeah.
by the Cailleach. So I think as my particular journey here was guided by a creation goddess that created the landscape in Scotland. Um, I maybe that's why I have kind of been welcome as well,
Mm.
because I kind of came under her cloak.
Yes. It's like I came to Wales via Ceridwen. It
Yeah.
was that very much she was the one that brought me here. And as soon as I found myself in this area, I felt like the land just said, yes, welcome, you're home now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, for that was my experience, but also I remember um one of the times I came on my own before I made the big move.
Mm.
Um, Following the Cailleach again. Um, I went to Loch Ness because I'm Ness. So I went to Loch Ness and I made these offerings to Ness, to the Loch. It's like, I am coming. I'm bringing my children to this land, and I just want to honor you. Who's gonna be? I am you. you and me.
Mm.
And so it's maybe this crazy thing I have about making offerings wherever I go, and that kind of opens the path, as well.
Yeah, I think it must do. It's that
Yeah.
that piece about being a good guest,
Yeah.
right? If you're a good guest, then generally speaking, the spirits are really good hosts.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh, I love it. So I know that you're also working on a new book on ritual tattoo and like magical tattoos. Can you,
yes.
I want to hear about that and how, because it reminds me about where we started, where we were talking about how our lives, their stories are in our bones. And this kind of
Yeah.
feels,
So I'm literally in this book, I'm literally telling another old story.
mm,
So basically taking people to the origins of tattoo, and I'm bringing consciousness into a practice that has been on the blacklist
mm,
for 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 many years also, and it was a stigma to wear a tattoo in many cultures, and the if you wore a tattoo, you couldn't people wouldn't look at you as a professional or things like that, so the same way I wrote my first book to kind of bring consciousness and honor. I wear tattoos myself, and I just want to do the same thing with this book, kind of bring that connection, bring that stories, and also bring part of my shamanic work with tattoos, because it all started with I had a student in Poland. I used to go to Poland to teach quite a few years ago. And one of my shamanic students, he was a tattoo artist, and he just went, Ness, how do we integrate this with my work? And I went home and I just went, how do I integrate tattoo with my shamanic work?
mm,
And I start creating the rituals. Like, because obviously there are many rituals that are still alive related to tattoo around the world, and they belong to certain traditions, and people go seeking for those traditions to get traditional tattoo. And some Westerners are welcome, other people is not, because they are close traditions, and is you don't want to steal something from other people. um So when I was kind of creating the structure for rituals, I was very conscious that I wanted to create something that anyone could use.
mm,
Anyone. Anyone can come to me, and I can do the process for them to get exactly uh where in their body they need a tattoo, for the tattoo to be healing,
mm-hmm,
or to mean something for their process, for the soul process, for the family process, but also to get the symbol. Like, you don't get to choose. The spirits give you the symbol. So you get where in your body the tattoo is going to do something for you. It could clear a family memory, a family trauma, a past life trauma, a trauma from this life. I mean, so many things that you can find out, and you can actually find where in your body you can actually put some ink that is going to be helping your path. um and obviously, we do part of the work is go and get the exact symbol that you need. And by symbol, I don't mean you getting a super complicated thing, or sometimes um people underestimate the power of a single dot.
yes.
So it's very magical to actually to be given a symbol, or to be given what you need by the spirits. Because when we choose from sometimes from the wrong place. Maybe we choose because we think, oh, I think I need this. And but maybe that's wrong. Maybe you need something else. And sometimes the spirits or your own soul, without, all those filters of what we think is consciousness. Um, so it's very interesting to really get to listen to the spirits and your own voice, soul voice, and get what you really need. So I created all these process, all these ritual to guide people that wanted to get something, and I could help them to get what they need. And then they just need to find a tattoo artist that kind of vibrates with the work and get it. But I also run retreats where I bring together tattoo artists that are spiritual with the work and people that want to get something spiritual. So we actually got to run uh, these retreats in Poland uh, years ago, and it was absolutely amazing. Um, and since I moved to Scotland and I started, I was like, oh, I need to run. I wanted to run that retreat here in Scotland. Um, but somehow things didn't work out. And then I started writing. And when you start writing, you can't not do everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I have been postponing to run that ritual tattoo retreat, where I guide the whole process. I guide the tattoo artist and the people. I just bring them together into this beautiful experience because it is truly, truly beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm writing about about that. But as I said, the best thing about this is that it's universal.
Mm.
Anyone can do these rituals. Anyone, and you're not stealing from anyone.
Yeah. You're coming back into relationship with yourself, with the
Yes,
spirits, and with
yes,
your deep soul voice. Yeah.
yeah. That's
Mm.
it. I think that's the most beautiful thing about the path of the bones. And obviously, this work, this ritual tattoo work, is part of the path of the bones. So it had to be universal, like the bones. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm almost finished with the book. Um, it's a beautiful artist, pagan author that is helping with the illustrations. She jumped on the boat to help me. I know, beautiful, beautiful girl. And yeah,
Yeah.
almost there.
No, that's exciting. And I mean, I am really passionate about how important that embodiment, the connection between our spirit, our soul, our magic, and our bodies and the
Yeah,
land, because we are embodied beings.
yeah,
So the work that you're doing is precious and needed in this world, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
So thank you for doing that and for sharing that.
As I said, we all have something to share, and this is my way of sharing, running workshops, teaching, doing my books
Yeah.
when I have the time because I'm a busy mom, and
Right.
I really haven't had time in a long time to
And
do
yet you,
my teachings or my retreats.
yeah, and yet you still do so many things. Like you also run the Ancestral Pathways Conference.
Yes.
And that a component of that is also fundraising to support like
Yeah.
the local little libraries and things. So that's
Yeah.
an amazing online conference. That
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to do a conference that was obviously because I was in Scotland.
Mm,
Everything started as the Scottish god kind of goddess, because I'm a goddessy person. So everything started as the Scottish Goddess Conference. But as COVID and everything, we couldn't get together. So it was not going to be Scottish. It moved online because of the different things happening in the world. And I went, well, if he's gonna be online, at least for now, completely aligned, it's not as Scottish anymore because it is really universal. And so that's why at one point I decided it was a good thing to change the name of the conference. It was like, this is a completely different thing, It's not Scottish anymore, it's international.
Mm.
And so it didn't make sense to keep the name just for the sake of it. And as being a water priestess, I had to flow with with everything I do. So I just went with it. No, I'm gonna change it. I changed the whole thing, and I'm so grateful because the the authors like you and other authors and speakers that are joining and sharing, you are really making a fantastic conference.
And you are behind the scenes chasing each and every one of us for late videos and bios and all sorts because
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's what I do. I work better in the shadow, I think, because of my issues sometimes with cameras, and
Yeah.
people don't realize how much I struggle when I'm being recorded or I need to do something like that. But I don't mind that part. But yeah, it's a reminder that I'm still waiting for your formal proposal.
Yeah, noted. I was just thinking, oh, the deadline's coming up, and you extended the deadline as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I run events and organize things, and I know what it's like having to chase people. And then when I'm the other side of it, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to bring that up as a
Yeah.
reminder that
Yeah, I mean, the
even when you're not.
deadline is still open. So anyone that has something to share about the works of the dark, because this year's theme is is not that we're gonna share about like dark practices, or the I chose that theme because we are living very dark days,
Mm,
and that's the reality. And because of the different political situations and stuff, you see people rising against the dark. You see people who wants to unveil the dark and reveal what is under those veils of illusion and lies and whatever. You see people bringing light into those dark times with whatever they can. And for me, so that was an important inspiration for the theme for this year. But also, you know, during the whole history,
mm,
we have lived through dark times and episodes in history, and sometimes that darkness what was not created but those that were accused of creating that darkness.
mhm,
So it's not that is this conference is not focused about dark stuff in that sense. Like, obviously I want to talk about I still have not decided what I want to talk about, but I was kind of thinking, yeah, people nowadays think they're so cool, and so hardcore in the things they do. And we are fluffy to compare to the practitioners of antiquity, and they were really the hardcore ones. And maybe I was thinking maybe I can talk about curses in antiquity or something like that,
mhm,
or I don't know. But I think the theme is broad enough
mm,
to have a good discussion table and bring many different things, because also um, as a fairy person, you know that not all fairies are nice and giggly. or there are dark fairies as well, so there is always two sides to the story,
Yeah.
and I wanted to bring that theme to the table.
And also, not all things in the dark are wicked.
That's right. And
So,
not everyone in the light is so good.
yeah, exactly. And that's, I think it's a beautiful topic and a beautiful theme. By the time this episode airs, we may well have be past the deadline, but I will put the link below and
Thank
people
you.
can come and check out the conference, check out the lineup and sign up and come and attend, even if there isn't space for any new papers, and maybe think about applying for future
Yeah.
conferences and coming and supporting that
Yeah.
one. So yeah, thank you for all of the work that you do with these things. Now we're coming up to the end of our time, and I wanted to make sure that you had a moment to offer something for our listeners that they can go and do, some tips for how they can go and build and deepen their practices for new folk and maybe for old hands as well. So what have you
A
got for
couple
us?
of weeks ago, I had a folk. He sent me an email from the south of England, from the southern lands of this island, and he was saying, "I have this huge connection with Scotland. I would love to come and connect with the land there." And I was reading his email, and I thought, "Have you really?" And I actually answered back and said, it is lovely you have this connection and everything, but have you connected to the land around you? You don't really need to travel this far to make a connection. And that this is something maybe I would like to remind people today, that make a connection with the land that is around you. Take the time to walk in the landscape, to explore that landscape, to explore I mean, you don't need to look for like the very peak of a mountain. Maybe the small wee tree on the back of your house has something to teach you, Make offerings. Go with the land with offerings. That's something I would say to people listening. Take I take milk, oats, honey, wine, depending on where I go, or meat, you know, feed the ancestors, feed the land with good things. I mean, if you collect the rubbish you see around you, that's an offering as well.
Mm,
Um, to clean the space for those spirits and the ancestors, and the land. Um, so that would be my tip. Take food with you when you go for a walk. Take a bag to put rubbish if you find rubbish. Put put some cakes, oat cakes, and milk. Go to this tree that you love and maybe try leaving a little bit of milk by the roots and some oat cakes and
mm,
maybe some seeds for the birds that live in that tree. Connect with what is around you. Doesn't matter where you are.
mm.
That would be
Yeah.
my advice.
One of my favorite offerings, just to add to that, has always been to sing to the wind,
Yes.
or to read a favorite poem, or story to, like, even if it's someone else's, to
Yeah.
read to the wind and the trees. And that's
Yeah.
something that you can do, because periodically I've been effectively housebound and not been able to get out of the house because of injuries. So I know that sometimes we can't go and walk the land,
Yeah.
but generally we can still open the window and speak to
Yeah.
the wind. We
Yeah.
can
My
line that
daughter,
way.
we were a couple of weekends ago on for the 1st of February for Imbolc.
Mm,
We made, some people from the goddess community in Scotland. We went for the trip to Dumfries to the south, and we visited a cemetery, a necropolis, and we went to visit Robert Burns'
mm,
mausoleum, you know. And my daughter, she actually brought a poem she had been learning, And she just stood in front of the mausoleum and took her wee paper and recite in his Scots. She recite a poem for Burns,
Mm,
and it made me proud. It made me so proud. That she understood that what she was doing was an offering.
yeah,
And it was beautiful.
so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you
Thank
for
you
coming
for
on.
for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I loved hearing about your work and the reasoning behind it, and the way in which people can like actually remember that you are part of the land that you're in. So that's
Yeah.
such powerful
Yeah, I
material
think
work.
I think there is a reason why I follow the path of the bones, and also as the head of the Covenant of the Waters, I is the waters, because I think no matter where you are, there is always bones and waters. It's people of water.
Yes.
And so I'm not surprised I end up also, opening this community for everyone into waters. Not so many people is into bones, but it's a lot more people into water.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but they're both universal paths. So here I am.
Well, thank you for opening those doorways for people. Where can folk come and find you? What's the next thing that you're offering that they can come and find you?
Well, I'm actually traveling to the States in March. I'm gonna be in Iceland for a few days running a retreat in Iceland, and then I'll go to Baltimore because I'm speaking in the Sacred Space Conference in
Oh
March.
wow, nice.
And obviously there's books coming out this year. One you participated.
Oh yeah.
We talk about wounded goddesses. I think that one's coming out in December. And obviously, they can find my website, The Path of the Bones, and also the Coming Out of the Waters. And we have a Substack for the Goddess Community Scotland. And yeah,
Brilliant.
I'm basically there.
I will put all of the links in the comments. Anything that you want me to add, you let me know. I'll add it to the episode description.
Thank
And
you.
people can come and find you. So, folks that are listening, go and check out Ness's work. Check out the Ancestral Pathways Conference and the Covenant of the Waters and the Path of the Bones, and go and connect with your local landscape, with your local spirits, whether that is by walking the land and feeding it directly, or if you can't get out, open the window and sing to the trees across the wind,
Yeah.
and be there, be present with those beings. And maybe, you never know, you might meet a troll yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for tuning in to Tea with Halo and Ness. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, hit all the buttons, and share this with someone who you think might enjoy it. This will help us to share all the wonderful magic more widely. Remember to go out and do all the things, and you can find Ness in all those places, and you can come and join the conversation with me in the Enchanted Academy. So we are here to re-enchant the world, to reconnect, to weave magic together. So come along, join us, be part of that, and may your way always be full of magic, enchantment, and delight.